Hi, I'm Roy Cram from the Revelation Trust, and welcome to my podcast, Gospel Entrepreneurs. In this podcast, I'll speak to someone in the church, business, or community who is seeking to follow God's will in their life and make a difference to other people's lives. Today, I'm joined by someone who was on a podcast in the first series, Steve G. Steve is a church planter who has planted 3 thriving churches in the last 20 years and is now doing another one starting in Milton Keynes. We're going to be tracking Steve's journey over the coming month as he starts another church. So whether you're an entrepreneur in the church or not, Steve's story is one worth listening to. And it's about taking risks and listening to what God wants you to do. So welcome, Steve.
Hi, Roy. It's good to be with you.
Hey, it's great to have you again. Steve, just tell us, you left a large, thriving church to kind of go and start again. Why would somebody do that?
Yeah, well, I guess if leading a church was a career move, then in some ways we have committed career suicide. You know, we realized that we could have been fairly comfortable for the next 20 years. As you say, leading a healthy, growing church, something that we'd built from the bottom up. And so it was healthy and thriving, and we were having lots of fun. It was a church that we loved. And we have taken the step to step into a new church planting adventure. I used a gambling term in church once, but it feels like we've put all our chips on the table. You know, we've laid it all down and we're stepping into this brand new chapter of church planting again.
You're still part of Vineyard, obviously, and you did various campuses around what you did, but you're now stepping into Milton Keynes. How does that happen within your context, Steve? Or do you just kind of hear from the Lord and do it? Give us the journey.
Yeah, so I guess for us, the journey kind of collided with COVID. And so just before the pandemic, we celebrated 2 fairly significant anniversaries. We celebrated 20 years of marriage, but we also celebrated 20 years of ministry, because we literally got married and then planted our first church 3 months into married life. And so those two things kind of converged. And I guess for us, we just got to this place where it was just like, this is a bit of a half-time moment. What does the next 20 years look like? You know, if we get to serve Jesus in our context, what do we do? What is it he might be calling us to next? And I guess in many ways, we wanted to be in this kind of place of holy indifference, you know, where we was just like, okay, Lord, if you say stay, we will stay. But equally, if you say go, we will go, you know, and we really just wanted to be in that place where we would be willing to be obedient, whatever the cost. And a mentor of ours often says that, you know, old orders are good orders until you get new ones. And once you get new ones, it's yes, sir. And so we really found ourselves in that place, you know, where there was this driving sense in our hearts that the Lord was speaking to us about something new, which didn't make a lot of sense. To step back into the world of church planting in my mid-40s with 3 teenage daughters doesn't make sense at all. But as we began to journey that process of discernment, I think God was just really gracious to us, you know, and just he spoke to us personally. We had people phone us up out of the blue and just say, I just really, you know, the Lord's been speaking to me about you guys. Are you guys thinking about church planting? You know, all sorts of things like that happened probably over a period of about 6 months, where we got to the place where we were just, okay, Lord, you need to stop speaking now. We'll just say yes. We'll be obedient.
And is there, obviously you were getting that personally, is there a process within a Vineyard network that kind of happens? Because obviously handing over leadership, a massive transition for you, Steve. We'll move on to where you're going to plant and what you're going to do. But what was that like as well?
Well, obviously, you know, we're part of a network of churches. And so there is a level of accountability. And we want to make ourselves accountable to those we work with and those who are supporting us. And so I guess part of that discerning journey for us was to go to our leaders and say, this is what we feel like the Lord is saying, and allow them to say, you're completely mad, or yeah, go for it. This seems to be right with us and right with the Lord. Let's pursue this. And so we definitely we didn't want to make a decision in isolation. We wanted to involve those we respected, those we looked up to, people we felt could speak into our lives, could speak the truth to us, and people who are willing to say, you know what, guys, we think you're completely mad. Why are you considering this? We really didn't want to just make a decision based on what we thought was right to do today. And so being part of something bigger than us has really helped that process and has been really supportive. There's nothing in the vineyard that says, oh, you can plant there or you can't plant there. We really want people and teams of people to really hear from the Lord and go where he's leading them. And so it wasn't a case of someone saying to us, oh, you can't go to Milton Keynes or anything like that. But it was a case of just journeying with people who are like, yeah, we want the best for you. We want the best outcome. Let's journey this out. Let's help you discern this process. And then I guess in a movement like ours, we refer to ourselves as a church planting movement. And so we do want to make sure our church planters are as equipped as they possibly can be. And so obviously there's different processes that we take church planters through. There's like a discernment process that we use through Lifeway, which asks a whole bunch of questions of our church planting couples. And it's not a pass-fail test. It's just a way of saying, these are some areas that you're strong in, in terms of your ministry and life and work. And these are some areas that you might want to develop and you might want to work on, particularly as you go into a pioneer setting where it's going to be intense for probably the next 2 or 3 years, and so we don't want to set people up to fail. We want to give people the best start that they can possibly have.
So somebody listening to this may kind of have the idea of a church planter, or they may, because it's been a bit romanticized, hasn't it? It's like
Sure.
A bit sexy, a bit kind of, oh, I'm going to go, what would you say to someone like that? How do they walk through the process, Steve?
So this is our third church plant, and I would say if you can do anything else, do that. So there is that element of like, you're kind of signing up to be ugly. It's going to be a tough season ahead. It's going to be all give. There's going to be lots of stress. There's going to be disappointments. There's going to be moments where you think, why on earth am I doing this? Yet at the same time, church planting is just an amazing adventure. And it's an adventure where you say, okay, God, this is your enterprise. I firmly believe Jesus is the one who said he would build his church. And he uses people like you and me to do that in the process. And so I think being on a church plant or planting a church is probably one of the most, with all the pain, it's still one of the most rewarding things I've probably ever done in the last 25 years of ministry. And actually, I just think I couldn't do anything else. I feel like this is what we're made for and what the Lord shaped us for and given us to do. It's the task ahead. So.
Which is amazing. And this is your third one. And so knowing there's going to be some of that pain, but some amazing joy, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride that you're going on. So just tell us, where are you going? What's your plan, Steve, at First Base? Because you're moving this week to Milton Keynes, right. and it all kind of kicks off this month, doesn't it?
Yeah, as you say, the Lord has spoken to us. We really feel like we're to kind of focus on the west side of the city. And as many people will probably know, Milton Keynes is probably the most unique city in the UK. It's 55 years old. It's built on an elaborate grid system of dual carriageways and roundabouts. And in some ways, it's a bit utopious in the way it exists, and at the same time, it has loads of challenges. And so we really felt like the Lord speak to us about planting a church that would, our goal wouldn't be just to plant a great church, although we want to be a great church, that our goal would be that we planted a church that contributed to building a great city. That was really the driving force in our hearts and minds, that we wanted to think that, if our church didn't exist in X number of years, people in the community would notice that there would be something of an impact that we make because this church exists. And we felt like the Lord began to speak to us about just this whole idea that, the story of the scriptures, it starts in a garden, Eden. But the trajectory of the story is that it ends in a garden city, a renewed Jerusalem. And my conviction is that the Lord is making all things new. That's the process that we're in. And he invites you and I to be part of that process, to bring restoration and renewal to our cities. And so we really felt like the Lord gave us this kind of name, Garden City, as a bit of a prophetic statement to say, this is the kind of church we want to be. This is the kind of impact we want to have on the city. This is the direction that we're traveling in. It's a story that starts in a garden, but ends in a garden city. And then as we began to just research the history of the city and research some of the thinking behind the city, we found out that actually the principles for Milton Keynes were built on the Garden City movement by Ebenezer Howard. And this idea of combining kind of urban centres with the rural England, and bringing these two things together. And so Milton Keynes in some ways is the ultimate garden city. People think roundabouts and concrete cows, but it's also a really green city with thousands and thousands of trees. When the first residents moved to the city of Milton Keynes, they were given a voucher to plant a tree in their garden. And so everyone planted trees in their gardens. And so when you look over the city, it's just this green, lush land. And so we really feel like this idea of bringing renewal to a city that's called to be a garden city is at the heart of what we're doing. And I guess for us, we want to kind of hold these two tensions of what does it mean for us to be a gathered community? So I think, post-pandemic, maybe we've realized how much we took for granted the privilege of gathering as God's people in different ways. And I think for me, gathering as a church on a Sunday is less about attracting people and more about the sacrament of gathering as God's people together in community. And I guess for me, it's that moment every week where the normal rhythms of life are interrupted and we get to remind ourselves about what's true and real in the world each Sunday. So we want to be gathered as a community, but we also want to be scattered, recognizing that actually most people in our churches, they spend 2 hours with us on a Sunday, but the rest of the time, was it 166 and 167 hours, they are out in the community, in their workplace, in their neighborhoods. And what does it mean for us to empower them to be all that they're meant to be in the communities around them? And so that's the kind of tension that we want to hold as we see this new community come to life.
And big move, big transition for the family. You're moving house, which is nothing short of a miracle how that's come about. But there's been various miracles along the way. And somebody listening to this, Steve, so are you going to start with a small group? Have you got some people that are kind of with you saying, yes, we recognise this, we want to be part of it? Or is it just you and the family? What?
Yeah, we've gathered over this last year, we've probably gathered about 20, a core of about 20 people. who are kind of committing themselves to be part of the journey with us. We refer to them as our launch team. And so they're the ones who are kind of helping us do all the legwork in this next season. We're going to do a couple of things in the coming months. In October, we're going to be launching monthly preview services. And really, that's just a kind of taste and see kind of moment where people can come and just experience who we are, get to meet us. And it's a bit of a front door into what we're doing. And then the rest of the time, we're going to do church around the table in our home. And so we're going to do that until we can't fit any more people in our house, basically. And we've upset all our new neighbours. And so that's the plan. And then we're hoping that by the end of this year, that we might have around 50 people who are saying they're committed to what we're doing.
That's amazing, because obviously your first church plant, or second, I think, went from 10 to 5 in the first year. So you're already starting in a different place, Steve.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And Steve, you're still a kind of regional, I don't know what they call it, director of vineyard churches across the region. But you're also going to take on a role with Revelation Trust, aren't you, to kind of develop and invest in church planters and those kind of entrepreneurial gatherers?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to connecting with individuals who want to play an entrepreneurial role for the sake of the gospel. That's really excites me. But also looking forward to ways that we might be able to empower churches to work alongside those who have entrepreneurial giftings. That so often we can look at the gifts of people in our churches and think, how can we use them for our benefit? Whereas I think pastors need to think far more vocationally, about their people. And we want our people to think far more theologically about what they do. And if we can do that in some way and empower churches to do that, I think we could see some really exciting things happen in towns and cities across this land.
And it's great that you're joining us to kind of invest in that and see, as a pastor, which is obviously what you are, because there's a little bit of insecurity and some challenges that pastors feel when they have entrepreneurs in their congregation, and they need to see them as adding value and benefit and not a threat in that sense. And we want to work with that, don't we, Steve?
Absolutely. I think for me, it feels like just a natural extension of what we believe God's called us to do in the city that he's called us to, that we want to bring renewal and change and restoration to the city. And that's bigger than just saving souls, isn't it? We want to save souls and we want to reach people and introduce them to Jesus, but it's far, far bigger, far more reaching than that. We want to see whole communities transformed, and business and commerce and the arts and all those different arenas changed and transformed. So yeah, exciting.
And it must be amazing to transition. I mean, because you kind of said when you grew the church, you were a CEO, you had some church plants, you had a staff team, was it a dozen or something? And to move from all of that with all the chips on the table, to quote you, is an amazing challenge. But there's something in you that's like, this is what I've got to do. I'm not enjoying that, although God did it, but this is what I was made for. Absolutely. That's what it feels like. It feels like that kind of startup environment is what God has created us for. I think I just become more creative in that. Whereas leading this kind of beast of a church kind of nearly killed me. I'm a terrible line manager. Just ask anyone who was my direct report. I don't think you should call the church a beast, but anyway. Steve, we want to journey with you. We want to see what this looks like. I think it's amazing, you and Tammy and the family and what you're doing, praying. It all goes amazing. Thanks for joining us. If you want to find out more about Steve linking with Revelation Trust, and maybe you think, hey, I've got a bit of a church planting thing in me. What's the process? What should I do? Just contact us at revelationtrust.org and we put you in touch with Steve. We could join up things. We're just at first base in developing that and seeing that can move forward. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. I know it's a busy time that you're in, but we really appreciate you giving us this period of time today. So thanks.
No, not a problem.
Thanks to Steve for coming back, and we're looking forward to tracking his church journey. It will be amazing, and let's see what he learns along the way. I'll be back with another gospel entrepreneur next week. But in the meantime, you can catch up on all the previous conversations I've had on the UCB Player app or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening today. Gospel Entrepreneurs is a UCB podcast in partnership with the Revelation Trust.